Hi, I'm Lars. Welcome back to the shop. We're back in the blue room. It's winter time. It's getting here, so we need to keep the room heated. This video is about updating your software on your Masso G3 Touch, to be specific. I know there's a lot of videos that are going out there, and I'm sure they're all doing, explaining a lot of things and whatever. But this is kind of like the archive for me and for other people that are subscribing to the channel, and maybe it gives you a different viewpoint of what's going on. So the update for Masso is not that big of a deal. I'm going to be going from version 5.03 to 5.07. There was a lot of reasons I didn't go to 5.07. One, I'm a software architect, solution architect, enterprise architect. I'm also a developer, and I've been doing this for 48 years. All right. So the big thing is, whenever software comes out, there's always issues with it. I don't care what it is, there's going to be at least one issue. When you're running a business and you're cutting wood or cutting metal or whatever, the last thing you want is to have that one little bug destroy your product or get somebody hurt. I know these are hobbyist machines, but there's a lot of people who do use them for their own stuff. So the reason I did not update from 5.04 to 5.03 to 5.04, 04B, 05, 06, or 07, it's pretty much in the release documents for 5.06. Now, the release document in 5.06 has a list of bug fixes like this. And inside the release documents, it specifically says these were introduced in 5.04, 5.04B, and 5.05, and now we have fixed them. 5.07 was something that I was going to go to, but I was going to wait till 5.11 maybe came out, because 5.07 had a very small stack of anything that it did. It didn't actually have bug fixes in it. It just said, hey, we're just doing this or doing that and moving on. I was like, okay, well, maybe they introduced something. I don't know. But I did notice there is no 5.08. There is no 5.09. There is a 5.10B. So what happened to 08 and 09? I just kind of curious, right? Okay, so enough about that. So again, this thing here is going to update just the version initially. So what we're going to go through is what you need to download and where do you need to download it from. It's the very first thing we're going to go through. You need to back up your current files. Well, I highly recommend you back up your current files. And that means your settings files and your tools files. And I'll show this on the screen. It'll say save files and save printable files. Get the printable files, because that's going to be all of your settings that you currently have. All right? And your tools. Then we're going to do an update on the Masso version. The update to the Masso version will change absolutely no default settings, and it will not change any of your tools. And at that point you're going, yeah, this is great. It is great. Then there's this whole thing of what to do next. And these are some of the questions I'm getting from people. Some people updated their software, forgot to do the hardware dip switches, and they're like, my machine is flying across the, just all over the place, right? Well, we're going to update our hardware first, because that should have been like a real big banner, update your hardware first. So set your dip switches first, all right? But people start thinking, hey, I'll just download the files, I'll get this updated, and I'll do the software first, and there shouldn't be any big deal. Well, there is. So please get your hardware, your dip switches set first. Then we're going to update the default values and the tools. Now, this is the other thing that people have been complaining about. I.e., Onefinity says, there are no bugs, there are no issues with this. There's not any bugs, but there are little issues that were not called out in their instructions, okay? Mainly because they're doing it on a brand new machine, they're updating it, they're not using it, and people have gone through and put all these tools in, and now they think that they gotta go back to Fusion or back to Carveco and find out those things and put them all back in. I don't know about you guys, I've got about 8 or 10 different bits that are in my machine that I don't want to lose. I don't, maybe you've been miking the little dimensions on your tools and saving that, okay? So, we're gonna back everything up. And then you're going to take that information and you're going to store it on your PC. All right? And you're going to keep it in your printable file. So you're going to keep those over there. Then you need to take the exact same location on the jump drive and you need to put the Onefinity files. All right? And we're going to get into all this in more detail. Once you're done with all that, we're going to make a backup setup and then we're going to compare the two printable files. And this is going to tell you all the details. Now, what I did when I did mine, all right, is I ran a test cut from an old test, just a square, to see how that would cut. And then when I was done, I ran that test cut again. Okay? And I will tell you, and I'll show you here during the video, that they both came out the same. So this is going to work. The setup and everything does work, and you're going to be able to reuse your old G-code files. All right? The purpose of this is to make more fine-tuned adjustments, if you will, as the G-code file is moving. So it's allowed to move more, what are they called? Pulses per revolution. So it can go 2,000 times instead of only 400. It's going to give you a smoother cut on your reliefs and just in general your cutting and using of the CNC machine. So for the first thing here, let's get into where and what we need to download. First thing that you need to download is the files from Masso. In order to do that, I've got all these links are in the description below, but this is where you need to go. You need to put in your username and password. What you want to do is you want to go to your devices. And you're going to see your serial number here. Here on software download, you'll see all the different stuff that you're able to download. You can only download one version back of the Masso G3 Touch. I don't know why. So you open this up, you have two different types of machines. You either have a lathe, or you have a mill, router, plasma, oxy, or water jet. So here's the download software. You click on this, it's going to pop up this little message. Here's all your release notes. Make sure you loading or switching different software versions must be done with caution, making sure settings and control settings logic are set up correctly, You want to continue, hit yes. What I do is I drop my stuff into a directory called CNC Masso. So this would be for the 5.07 and this is where I saved it. Alright. Now, once you have it saved in that directory, you can take it and you can pick it up and you can move it to your USB drive, which my USB drive is plugged in as an F right now, and it needs to go under a directory called just Masso, not under machine settings, just under Masso. Now that we have this on our USB drive, we can go do the update for the Masso. Just like everybody else, you got this email on October 29th, 13 days ago, on the service bulletin for Elite Masso stepper motor resolution change, and you needed to change it from these pins that were all on to turning off 1 and 4. So that's pretty cool. Read through all this stuff, commitment to improvement and everything. Then I went to read the full blog post here. And that's when this here opened up, which was pretty much the same thing that I just went through over here, except for, now it says written instructions, physical and digital. One thing I really wish they would have done, because I've had a few people ask me about this, with their machines that did the software first, because that's typically what you do. You're in your house or by your computer, you're reading this. I'll download all this stuff and then I'll go out and put it on. And then they went back and did the physical. Once they got the digital portion of this done and installed, they had to reboot their machine, rehome the machine, and their machine was flying all over the place. They totally forgot about doing this. Yes, it's possible because it's just the way it is. I really wish they would have put here physical must be done first before installing software. So the next thing is you come down through here on Windows PC and the form Onefinity, so you click on that and this comes up, which is the same thing I've got sitting right here. This was posted on December 2022. So a lot of people that talked to me were like, is this the one I'm supposed to download? Am I supposed to download these two files? I was like, I don't know. Actually, I haven't even looked into this yet. Then there's more details here. And this here opened up, well, this is about the Masso, so that's not where you get your files. Yeah, I guess you could just click on these and download them. But I went out and I did a search on the internet and came across this. Now this one here was only 13 days ago. So this here looked a little better. And this said October 23rd. This wasn't from December 2022. And you know, if you keep on coming all the way down here, this only went back, you know, a few days before. And so I wasn't sure, and they weren't sure. So I said, no, these are the files you need. You're going to need to download this one here for Foreman, and then you're going to need to download these here for Journeyman. And I said, they may be the same. I have no idea. This is some of the confusion that people have had. So I went with this here, and I clicked on it, and then I downloaded my stuff into CNC, Masso, and then 5.07 1F. And that's one of them. That's the other one. I had to make a copy of this and rename it to Access Settings because it won't take the Foreman. So just pointing that out. That's all there is in these two files are here. So then save those away, and now we've got everything downloaded and ready to go to do our update. Now notice I didn't have you put this on the USB file, on the USB drive yet. We will get to that. Alright, now that we have everything downloaded, we need to back up our current files. And the way that you do this is like this. Right here on the F1 setup screen, you hit load, save and load settings. Double click it. You want to save to file, and then you want to save printable file. Okay? Once you save file, this is saving your settings and your tools HTG file. The printable file will be a text file. I'm going to hit save to file. And it'll say settings saved on USB Masso 5 access settings HTG file. Well, there's also a tools file that got saved, but they didn't tell you that. Then you're going to save the printable file. Now we're generating the printable file, and now notice this one says Masso settings 5.07. It's because I've already updated. 90% of you that are doing this probably already have a 5.07, but when I did this originally, I ended up with a 5.03. Okay, at that point in time, you can exit. Alright. So remember when I said that my machine was originally at 5.03? Okay. So these are the two files that when I hit save files got saved. And they got saved under a directory called Masso. Here's my update for my Masso. For the 5.07, we haven't run that yet. Here's the machine settings, which are backed up. So these are my 5.03 settings, and this is my 5.03 partition file, or printable file. And I'm going to show you that right here. And it gives you the serial, the hardware, the code, the software that was running. It tells you your homing sequences. Notice that my sequences are X1, Y1, and B1 all move at the same time. So it tells you every single thing about your Masso, all the way down to the bottom, including all of your tools that you currently have. Alright, it's a very good file to have around. Now what I did is I copied these over to my Masso directory under 5.03 and put version 5.03 on these on this side. So now I've got everything backed up. Now I can safely say that my current version of what I have out there before I do any updates has been secured. If I were to have any problems with this, I could send all this information over to Masso and they might be able to do something to help me out. For my case, my situation, there were no issues. Hopefully for everybody else, there'll be no issues. Now the reason we needed to back these up is because as soon as we run our updates for Onefinity, all this will be erased. Okay, because we're going to have to put our updates on here. So let's get back to doing the install for version 5.07. The next step is to update the actual version of the Masso. Now mine went from 5.03 to 5.07, and this is how I did it. So from the Masso website and their videos and stuff that they have, they say you can boot this up and then plug this in, but being that all my years in IT, it's easier just to plug it in and let's just see what happens from there. So I'm going to boot up my Masso. I'm not going to boot up my spindle or anything. When this comes up, you tap. Alright, so what you're seeing here is my G Masso 5X 5.07, the G3, and then that is my serial number for my machine. Everybody will have this. If this is sitting in the Masso directory, you could put your 5-axis 5.03, 5.0 whatever, and you can have them all listed here. You just need to select the one that you want and then tap enter. This will come up and say loading, please wait, do not power off controller or remove the USB flash drive. And with a little bit of video editing, that didn't take any time at all. In reality, it took under a minute. At this point, software update is successful. Press escape to continue. Here's escape right there. Now this will reboot. Don't tap the screen or anything. And you're all up and ready to go. So at this point we have the e-stop that's screaming at you. Notice it doesn't say machine ready. So you hit your e-stop, release it, and now you can home your machine if you wanted to. Okay, I'm not going to home my machine at the moment. Probably will do this in a bit. But the first thing I want to do is I want to go to setup and I want to hit this. Good, so that's all, none of that has been changed. It now says I'm running at the top up here. We're just going to zoom in on that. So at the top up here you can see it says Masso 5-axis 5.07. It looks like my tools and everything are the same. I don't know about anything else. Here's the x-axis. It looks like everything here is set up the same. Let me look at homing. Get out of this. Yep. So nothing else is changed on here that I can tell. The next step that needs to be done is dip switches 1 and 4 need to be turned off on all 4 of the motors. And this is how you do it. I'm only going to show doing one of these. One thing you want to make sure is that your power is off on the machine. Alright, so you're going to pull your 2 screws out of the back of this, and then when you're done, you're going to just rock this back and forth a little bit, and that's where the dip switches are. I suggest taking a screwdriver and just touching number 1 down and then number 4 down. Make sure everybody else is still back up. So 2, 3, 5, and 6 are on, and 1 and 4 are off. And you're going to set all these up this way. Now to put this cover back on, what I usually do is I'll lift up the wires and stick them into these slots and hold it up high, and then push it down. This way you make sure you don't pinch any of the wires, and then just put these really long screws back in. So I don't recommend using a screw gun to do this. Just take a small screwdriver and slowly put these in. Because if you put them in too quick, or if they get cockeyed, you could really, do some damage. And I'm pretty sure these things are not cheap. The next step that needs to be done is we need to update the Masso with the new defaults from Onefinity and the tools that you had on your machine. And this is how you do it. Over here on the partition 1, this is my USB drive, Masso machine settings. You don't need this here anymore. I'm just going to leave it there. Doesn't need to be there. But remember, this needs to be Masso, capital M-A-S-S-O, and then machine settings. They should have already been written there from our original backup. And if you go inside, what I want you to do is just delete everything that's there. Now, This is from my 5003. This is the last one that I did. Okay, this is my tool settings. If we take that, we can drag it over. And then you go back to Masso. Remember, this is the one from 507 from 1F, from Onefinity. And I'm going to take their settings file and put it over here. If I was to take this tools file, and you guys can try it out, but there's nothing in it. It's empty. So you'll lose all of your tools. So now that this is on my USB under Masso Machine Settings, now we can load these files in and everything will be there. If you go back to F1 Setup and double click on your Save and Load Settings and then click Load from File, these files will both be read from your USB. At this point in time, you need to click Reboot to actually initiate them into the system. And as you can see from this point, the home and the emergency stop are set up just like Onefinity wanted you to have them. So we just hit the emergency stop. We're going to rehome the machine. It's moving at a normal speed, just like it normally would. We're going to go into F1 Setup. We're going to clear the password. We're going to go into homing. And we're going to see that these are the settings that Onefinity put in, not the settings that I want. So at this point, we're going to go back to load and save and load settings, and we're going to click on Save Printable File. And what that's going to do is it's going to store off all of our data and settings that we currently have in the system right now. And then we're going to do a comparison to see what else we have to change. Again, as you can see over here, Partition 1F, Masso Machine Settings, I have the Masso Settings 5.07 printable file on it. And I can tell it is because it's a text file. So we're going to take this file and copy it over to my 5.01F. And then I'm going to compare that with the file that's in 5.03. And I have a really cool tool called WinMerge. It's a free out on the internet. You just go look up WinMerge. And you can pull up these two files and it'll do a line-by-line comparison. So initially you see off that, this says 5.07, 5.03. In the new version, 5.07, the sequence goes Z gets run, X gets run, Y and B get run. In my version, as you saw before, sequence is Z gets run, X, Y, and B all get run together. There's some other things like homing feed rate is 40 and 30. The pull-off is 0.04 versus 0.019. I think that's going to be fine. The x-axis position after homing, I like mine to be a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch off. Request home on startup is ticked. I believe in the documentation these were not working. Also the encoder pulses per revolution says 0, which will run to 2000, which is something that we don't want to set back. Tool changer in use is manual tool change, the same as I have here, but now you can set a position to do your manual tool change. I don't know if this is beneficial. Your x-axis, your drive pulses per revolution is 2000. It used to be 400. Nothing else seems to have changed here except for like some just really like thousands position numbers or something to that effect. Travel minimum I have to 0.25 just because my home is 0.25 and the same as travel minimum on Y is 0.50, so I'll have to go back and set these up. Something else, if you look at the one from the 5.07, originally I actually ran the other one without putting mine in. I did run this for this so we can show the comparison, and all the tools were dumped out. So I had to run it again. I'm saving you guys from that. So I had to run it again to put my tools back in, but they are definitely there now. Work set, offsets, these don't really matter because this is just whatever the person had it set up when they were using the machine. So remember, if you don't want this to happen to you, with the tool offsets to be dumped, make sure you put your tools table, your tools file in with Onefinity settings file, and you should be okay. Well, I hope this video helped you out. I know it's going to be something that I'm going to use as my archive. Feel free, you know, to come into here and look at the different settings if you know you're having problems with stuff. At least now, if you didn't know before, you know how to get that printable file. Well, thanks for coming to the shop today. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. You're always welcome back in the shop or the Blue Room. As always, have a nice day.